Going on today, we are going to be working on a little tutorial project. And so here's what's going on. um, so essentially, I was asked, how can you create a menu screen, right, for like crafting stuff, right? Not a menu screen, I guess it's a crafting screen, whatever, UI, because I made a really cool looking one. And so the secret to that is actually kind of simple. And it's really effective, so I thought I would share it. So it's a good question. Let's go ahead and start off by adding in a floor. So this will be our floor. And we're moving a little fast, so I'm going to slow myself down a little. What you want to do is you want to have yourself plenty of floor space to work with, because you're not sure exactly where this is going to wind up. You can choose some sort of an asset that you want to use with this as well. I'm going to go with, I guess this is what I'm going with. I prefer to try and find something else. I do like wood stuff, but some of these aren't great. Let's just keep looking. You know what? I did get some Megascan stuff, which is also something that I would suggest you do. You've got your sort of surfaces. This is one of them. It's called weathered wooden planks. Apparently, it looks like that. It's not a bad look. It's just not exactly what I'm looking for. For the floor, let's just go with, I guess, sort of a generic pine. It's just one of those original pine materials. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you're using. You can make it whatever you like, I guess. But ultimately, you want to have enough floor space to work with that, you know, you can put together a little bit of a scene, essentially. Because that's what we're kind of doing, is we're throwing together a scene for this menu. So what you need is probably 6 blocks, right? And we can pull these around to different spots, whatever, right? And they can have different materials. It doesn't matter about that. But you want to make it something that you're going to like, obviously. So for me, that kind of just looks like this. And you also want to have plenty of head clearance with the finished scene as well, because you need to be able to navigate around the inside of it and stuff. And so this is what we have right now. I'm going to leave this one side open, and I'm also going to add a point light in. So essentially, you just throw in your light. You're going to want to make sure also, after you've thrown in that light, just threw that light in the garbage, essentially. You're going to want to use temperature more than likely, so you can turn the temperature up or down, and I usually like to have it just a little bit warmer. And we're going to kind of lift that up a little bit as well. We are going to go ahead and actually put in that backside now, because we want to try and block a lot of the light. And this is pretty intense. This is really bright, which is partially because of the fact that these are all this basic material, shape, whatever. I prefer like a darker wood or something. I'll go with walnut, and that's already going to make a huge difference. Now, this isn't perfect or anything. One of the things you're going to want to do is open up Quixel Bridge. Quixel Bridge, very helpful. And you'll just throw that in right there at the top. So essentially, what we have is you throw together a scene. This is your backdrop, I guess, for light, whatever. And this is where you're going to be looking at. Another thing you're going to want to do is open World Settings and make sure that whatever pawn you're using is changed to the default pawn, because you're going to need to be able to fly around a bit and not have a character in your screen. So if you have another character, you might want to do that. Anyways, after you've done that, just open the bridge, look for some material that you like, and I'm going to want something that can be used for kind of like a shelf. So I can look up shelf and then try and find a surface. When I do that, I'm getting mossy rock and beach rock, so those are strange surfaces to be getting. It's only one thing, but yeah, I just want surfaces, and I'm just gonna go for wood, I guess. So let's find some wood. Okay, so this is the wood, and we're gonna want to go I'm going to go with something that looks kind of worn down, but not necessarily super, super old. And also could be used for just planks. So I'm thinking, wow, they have a lot of wood options here. This wooden log wall is a nice look, I suppose. You have these wooden planks that are green. I'm kind of looking for something. This is wooden planks. This kind of looks like a wheelbarrow. But I like that look a little bit. I want something that has a very, like a very specific kind of look. This one's a nice kind of looking wood. It's pretty messed up, and that's nice. I like it. I'm gonna go with the red wooden planks here. Excuse me. These are nice. So we'll download these and we'll use those in the scene because, you know, what else? Also, you have worn wooden planks, which I'll also download because we might be able to make some use of these as well. So in general, having a scene with, you know, those specific colors from before might not always be great, but this room also seems to me to be just a little bit too dark and red, which is again something you're going to use probably a lot of time working on making it perfect. Maybe not, I don't know, but you do want just a little bit of warmth, but not too much. So you have to find that perfect color balance. I think to me that looks pretty decent. So yeah, you're going to want to pull this light up closer to the roof so that it actually resembles more of a light from above that's, you know, some light in the room. And then you're going to want to bring in a shelf or something. So for me, that shelf material is going to be that nice red one that we figured out, if I can find it. Did we ever even add that to the project? We downloaded it, but we never added it. So now we've added it. And let's just figure that one out. Not that one. This one. Okay. So what we'll do is we'll pull in a block again. And we're going to want to squish it down. Let's squish it down by smaller bits. Okay, because that works nicely for a shelf. Excuse me. Alright. So I think that works nicely. We can use that. That works for me. This is going to be a shelf. Okay, kind of like I was saying. We'll have a shelf here. And we'll just drag this on here. And that looks pretty good. Pretty good. You know, I might actually want to use that other one that I was originally thinking. The old shipwreck hole. So let's try that one on and see if it looks a little better. Looks pretty good, but just the fact that this is so dark makes it kind of hard to tell that this is supposed to look really worn down. Also, simultaneously, you want the whole thing to look worn down, but you know, it helps if you have kind of slightly different stuff, I guess. So, not necessarily perfect, but this works nicely. Another thing that I did was I got this plank. So I just searched up plank. And then I downloaded the wooden plank before. We'll go into the 3D surfaces and we'll find our plank already. And the idea behind plank is that you can use it directly for the edge of the wood. Because I feel like that just kind of adds a nice, like, last detail sort of thing. And it's very realistic, in my opinion. I've seen a lot of wooden planks in my day. And they're usually the thing that holds the shelf up whenever you've done like at least a home build project or something. So for the kind of look that I'm going for, this works very nicely. And the next thing is this floor. I'm going to change this one to have concrete or something because I'm not a fan of the way that it looks currently. Those concrete panels look too clean. Again, we want something kind of old. So this works nicely. And I've decided that for this scene, I don't really like that look. I do want the light, but I think it might even be better if it was, or maybe if it was like a darker light, you know, just like a darker intensity light. And it's like bluer, but it's supposed to be like red. Does that make sense? Like, it's giving off this greenish red light. That might be interesting. And I will actually change the light colors intensity here to 16 or something. That might be a little bit much. Who knows? It works out nicely. Because it just feels like that's the right environment to see most of this stuff in. But then again, this is going to change. So we'll just change that back. No biggie. To the redwood. Because we want that one to shine out a little bit more brightly. So this is the basics of the scene. Now the next thing you want to do is kind of get some tools, just rusty stuff, and throw it on there, because this is supposed to be a crafting menu. So at least that's what I did, and I like the way it looks. You could go with, I guess, anything really, but there's so many options when it comes to the tools with just a single search, tools. You have things that aren't even really tools. This is a lemon squeezer that shows up. You have a lemon squeezer, you have a rusty clamp, pitchforks, rulers, pretty much everything here. You can just use it and it's great. And so let's just grab some stuff and use it, I guess. Right? I've already downloaded a couple of these. We have, for example, like the pickaxe here. So you can just grab that, import it to the scene. It's going to be a little bit small, and so we'll make it a little bigger, right? And you could just have this kind of up against the corner of the wall, just kind of resting there, or whatever you want, right? So if I wanted to, I could just put that right here, lift it up a little bit, and that should look okay. You know, it looks like it's resting there. It's nice. It's pretty easy. The thing about these is that you can actually not necessarily turn on simulate physics whenever you've imported one of these, but if you wanted to, perhaps you could turn on simulate physics using, I don't know. Maybe if you made it into an actor, it could use simulate physics, but I'm not sure. So it's just a static mesh, so that's what it's supposed to do, is just be static. If you made it a movable mesh, that doesn't actually change anything either. You could have like a pile of chains on your desk. So like I dragged this pile out here. I'll make it a little bit bigger. Right? So you want those chains to really stand out. That winds up looking kind of nice. Excuse me. We'll just move this to here. You can rotate it a little bit or whatever till you find some angle that you like on it a little better. And then you could add, let's say I went with some tongs. So you'd pull the tongs out. You can make those, excuse me, I want to make them equally bigger, and throw them on this desk thing backwards. So we'll throw them on here kind of like this. You might even want to be able to put something in like a garbage bag or something. Just whatever, right? So that right there kind of could complete the scene already, I suppose. Let's just grab something random. Okay. So now you have kind of a basic idea of what you can just throw some stuff in there, right? I would go a step further and throw in one or two more things, but you could just, you know, experiment, play around, do whatever you like there. I'm going to throw in one more thing because it seems a little bit empty right now. And like I was saying, maybe this metal pot works nicely as well. If I were to just throw in the metal pot right here, kind of somewhere in the corner, grow it out so that it can be used more for a trash bucket, right? Okay, so now that kind of works out nicely, but we also want to put it under the desk. So we're going to throw that in right there. Just about right. That's actually pretty perfect. It looks great there. You could fill it with trash or whatever else. I'm not going to go that far into it, but what else looks like it would belong in a scene like this? Maybe, I'm really not sure. I'm really not sure. But if it's supposed to be a crafting scene, then you might want like a ruler. You could want, who knows. This looks like it's a metal scene specifically, so it looks like it would be used for forging metal or something, I guess. And anything that's being used for forging metal, I think you should probably have an anvil in there at least. So we're going to use this old rusted blacksmith anvil, which is kind of perfect. And blacksmith anvil, we're just going to make it really big so it takes up a fair portion of the desk or shelf space. And actually this is so big that we're going to place this on the ground here, sort of somewhere in the middle. So I guess like that. Okay, so now you've got yourself something like that. Maybe if we were to throw on just like an iron bar or something, like a gold bar. If I was to search for a gold bar and then place an iron look on it, that would probably be cool. If I search for bar here, I'm not sure if anything will come up. I'm looking for a specific, I mean, honestly, you know what you could use? You could use just gold. Let me just search up gold here. Find a nice golden. Yeah, this is nice. Okay, so we've got that. We'll actually download it. And then we're just going to throw a couple of cubes on the desk, modify them so that they look more like a brick. And so it's where you get creative, and it's really nice and fun. So again, I want to make sure that this is off scale whenever we're scaling it. Let's just hit that mouse button once so we can go into a lower setting. There we are. Okay, so this isn't perfect or anything. It's a little wide for a bar, actually. And now it's a little long for a bar. I guess that kind of works. It's not perfect, but it works. So now we're going to search for that gold, the AU gold, because that looks really nice. Actually, that would be our gold bar, but we're going to go for something that looks more like steel. With the idea being that we have a couple of steel bars here. The thing that I don't like about the steel bar look, though, is actually currently that the metallic is making it lose all of the light that would otherwise be reflecting off. So, and I guess that's kind of because of reflection capture or whatever, which is one of the things you could probably use if you just, messed with it a little bit. You'd have proper reflection capture off of this. Even just using a sphere or something, that would probably be better than nothing. So again, we'll kind of tilt that over a little bit. Okay, so again, here we're just going to move it down into position right about there. And you're going to want to rotate it in a way that... Okay, and you want to rotate this thing currently based off of its own positioning. So something like so. And then tilt it based off of the world positioning again, backwards. And then move it down. Okay, and then we'll use these variables again, which we had. We can just pull one of these over here, turn it on its side. We'll lift it up. I'm not sure if we should use the snapping or not, but I'm just going to lift it up without the snapping. And we'll turn it just a little bit. Right? So there's your steel, per se. I'm just going to, you know what, I'm going to go back in here and replug this to the metallic, because I can absolutely use a sphere reflection capture to just get the scene more correctly. And we'll just grow that out, the radius of this. Okay, this is not growing. Maybe that's not what I'm thinking it is. Let's just use a reflection capture though. Box reflection capture. Oh, it's pretty big. That's a pretty big reflection capture. So now this should be capturing reflections. Yes? No? I'm honestly not sure. I'm not sure what it's doing with this metal. If I was to put on a chrome looking metal, what would that do for this? Yes, so I'll just use chrome because I want it to be a little bit more shiny, I suppose. Despite the fact that it's supposed to be kind of a metal, it's supposed to also be shiny, but I don't want it to blend in too much. So we have to hit that perfect medium between it's blending in too much and it's, you know, it's not blending in enough. If we went with this metal burnished steel, that might be a good look. That could be a really good look. Also, perhaps if we went with, instead of burnished steel, if we went with the brushed nickel, that's also a pretty good look. Actually, I think that's my favorite. Okay. None of that really mattered, but the idea was to just kind of show off how that's supposed to work. So we'll make this a little bit brighter again. Okay. And what we're also going to do is we're just going to find a lamp for this scene because it doesn't feel right without one. Okay. I feel we need a specific lamp, something that I'm not necessarily seeing here. I'll download this because despite the fact that it's not really a working lamp, obviously right now, I think I can still use it in a way that'll look good. So let's look for that lamp. Okay, apparently I didn't add it to the project. That makes sense. Okay, so that's the idea, is place another lamp right here. Or not another lamp, but another light. We're going to want to do a spotlight for this one. Okay, so that's kind of nice. Not sure about y'all, but the idea is to then position yourselves in a way that you can capture the scene that you're interested in capturing. Now, for me, this is still not very bright, so I'm going to brighten it up a little bit. And I'm also going to turn the lamp a little more green, but not too much. I want to be sure there's like a resemblance that changes the color of it just a little bit there. We're also going to place another one. We're going to place another one on the other side because I kind of like the way that this looks. Okay, and we want to make sure that our engine scalability is completely cinematic because what we're about to do is we're about to take a photo. So you're going to want to position your camera in such a way that you have the exact part of the scene that you want. Okay, so let's say that I wanted a scene that looks something like this. Let's say that let's say that, but first I'm just going to make one last adjustment, which is to reposition this. Because I can't really see that much of it, and I want to see more. Okay. So here we are. This is the scene that we want. What we'll do is F10 to get into full screen, Alt-P to go to play, and then we can wait for this Shift F1 mouse cursor to get out of the screen. And what I'll do is I'll take a screenshot. Okay. So now if you go into your File Explorer, you can find that photo, and this is where you'll edit it just a little bit. You want to get rid of this part here, and that gives you the most high resolution, best looking picture which you'll then import into your scene and use for the menu. Okay, so that's the first thing. So that gives you the specific stuff that you'll use. You can actually delete all of this now if you're happy with your picture. And I'm happy enough with it, so I'm going to delete it. You can delete the box reflection capture as well. You can delete your lights. You can delete pretty much everything that you've been working on using. Okay, so now that you've done that, what you have is you have this one picture, this one beautiful picture that you're going to use for the menu, right? So now you've imported that in. The idea is to start working on some sort of a... Let's do this. Let's use our tutorial third-person character. Okay. Okay, so now we've got this character. What we want to do is we're going to give it a little bit of a way of accessing a menu. So this is done through the inputs. We'll add an action mapping. I'm sure most of you guys watching this video are more than likely familiar with action mappings. But I'm just going to call this crafting menu. Okay? So, okay. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to use E to access a crafting menu. Okay? So now, if we press E, something is supposed to happen. Nothing exactly happens yet, but it should happen. So we have this character blueprint. We'll pull that up here real quick. The reason nothing's happening would be if we haven't actually added this input. Alright? So we called it crafting menu. And what we want to do is we want to, if you press this, add to viewport. We've got to create a widget and then add it to viewport. Okay, just like that. So the one that we're going to add, we haven't yet actually created. So we'll create one and we're just going to throw it in here. Actually, let's go back and create a widgets folder in case we should do further videos here. So you go to your widgets, you create a widget by going user interface, widget blueprint, menu. Okay. Inside of your menu, the first thing you're going to want to look for is, it's called, let's see here. Guys, I'm not seeing much today. I'm not sure where this thing is, but what we're looking for is, it's called a canvas panel. I've probably passed it like 3 times. I'm just going to search for it. Canvas panel. So you'll drag that out, and then you're going to look for the basic thing, an image. And you'll drag that out. And then, of course, you have to bind your image to a specific image, which we created, which would be called something to do with screenshot. In this case, screenshot 16. We're going to open this picture up to be as wide as this thing, and we want to position this, which is supposed to hold the image, so that it holds the image perfectly to the screen at all given times. So that makes the appearance of actually having a full working crafting screen. So there we go. Okay. So now we have our scene, and that should be added to our character as soon as we press the crafting button. We just have to make sure that this shows on here, crafting menu, which I just named menu. Okay. I press E, now it takes us directly into that menu. There's no way to escape that menu yet, and in the background some things are still going on that you might not be aware of. So one of the things is, for example, if I jump, let's do with jumping specifically. If I jump, I want to make a sound, so let's do add sound, or create sound, sorry. Create sound 2D. So the sound that we're going to add just can be anything. We'll use the click on button. That's actually a really light sound. Let's use a clap sound. Okay, collapse sound. It's going to be super obvious every time we jump. Excuse me. It's going to be very, very obvious when we jump. Okay, it's creating the sound. It's not playing it. Sorry, I should have just put play sound 2D. But we'll now play the sound, which we've created. You can't get away with not hearing that, right? If I press that button while I'm in this menu, it's going to continue to work. Right? Very annoying. And that's because all of your bindings are still working. Your character is still able to move. So I'm not sure if you guys know about that or not, just in case it's something that you can know about. So yeah, essentially what you're going to want to do is, set the input mode to you're going to want to set the input mode to like set the input mode to UI only. Okay. Get player controller, in widget to focus, doesn't matter, flush input. That's something that you do want to do. You're going to want to flush all the input that the character has made up until this point. So that means what should happen is now I can't jump anymore. You hear me clicking that button. It's not working. I'm not jumping. So so that's how that should work. So you set the input mode UI only, and you're also going to want to give the player a mouse. So set show mouse cursor to true, and also in the player. Okay. So the thing is, in here you have to give them a back button so that they can get back to their game. So this is where you create one button, and of course you can do whatever you like to make this button blend in a little more. You could make it so that the opacity of the button is a little bit less opaque, or like a little harder to see, I suppose. That's in your background color, so we're going to do that here. And we want it to be about halfway visible in this case. And we're also going to make the button have maybe a little bit of a red look to it. Yep. Now the color and the opacity here, that one should probably just be white. Okay. So this is where we set in text over the top of that button. So we'll throw text in there. We will make the text say something like back, right? You can also change this around. It doesn't have to be red specifically. You want it to be a color that looks kind of good. So there we go. So now we've got this back button. You can do whatever you want with this. Make it look a little better. There's a lot of ways to do that. But the idea is it's a button. Let's do the stuff for the inside of the button. So what happens when you click this? So first of all, we want to remove from parent, and this removes the widget that's currently on the screen. So we remove from parent this self-same widget, which we are. Then we're going to want to set the input mode to game only, and we're going to set show mouse cursor, again, off. And so we'll get player controller. We'll use this for both this and this. And of course this is requesting a player state. Well, let's get our player state. No biggie. Okay. So this should work. So now we have the option to actually come in here, press the back button, and we go back. Okay. So that's that part. The next part would be, I suppose, building in functionality so that you can craft things. So first, to be able to craft things, you need to be able to gather things. And that's actually one of the most important parts of crafting, is gathering. So here we have our crafting menu, like so. Now let's just do basic gathering. So let's add another thing that we can do here, another action, which is going to be called a left click. And the way that that will work is just with this. we're going to press the left mouse button. And so let's get our input left click here. Now this click button is going to link to, forget exactly how they call it. It's something to do with line trace by channel, I believe. Okay, so this is the one. So it's a line trace by channel. And so there's a start point, there's an end point. What do you use for those? Well, what you're going to want to use is the camera start location, get world location, at least in my case. And you're going to use that for the start. And the end of it is going to be the forward vector. So get world rotation. We'll get the world rotation, get the forward vector of this, and we'll add this plus the forward vector times some number. I believe that's correct. So we're going to multiply this times the number, and that number can be used. We'll make it a float. We'll call it, sorry, not a, yeah, just a float. We'll call it distance. Okay, so we hook up the distance like so, and this is your distance variable. We'll do probably 30,000, so that should be a pretty far line trace. We're going to plug that in there, and we're also going to want to draw for one frame, and we'll see how this all looks when I left click. Okay, so as you can see, it's a little buggy. It's actually not working properly. Probably got it set up a little wrong here. So we get the forward vector times the distance, and we add that for the endpoint. So the world location plus forward vector okay, so this kind of looks right. I'm going to make it, instead of draw for one frame, excuse me, that's my bad, persistent. Let's just kind of take a look at what we have here. Okay, so you can see that it is actually working. Also, let's get rid of that terrible sound, because that was just for the example. Whenever you press the jump button to stop playing the audio, let's just not do that. But just kind of, that was so you could get an idea, guys. But yeah, you can see that that is definitely working. I thought it was a little bugged at first. Turns out it's not bugged. It's working perfectly. We could actually cast directly into the sky whatever we want. Okay, so the next thing to do would be to set it up so that you can actually gather things based off of physical materials. So let's look for physical materials here. And whenever we look for physical materials, let's just go down. We'll just scroll down. I think it's here. Yeah, it is. So we'll give one surface, and we'll call it grass in this case. Let's say that the main goal, and this actually kind of makes sense, because that is a very weird looking screen, my friend. I mean, that looks like a dark dungeon kind of, you know, mafia underground place that you just don't want to be at. But let's say that the main goal would be to make weed using grass, because that's a pretty hilarious joke. So okay, so if that's your goal, then it should be that you can just use grass. So we'll just use that as our main surface type. So you're going to want to come up with a place where you can make a surface type, and then you're going to want to go to physics, create a physical material. We'll call it grass. Oh, excuse me, we're a little early with trying to name that, but we'll call this grass. And the only thing you need to do is in here plus grass, save. That's it. So now what we want to do is use this out hit to determine what it is that we've actually touched. So what we're going to do is search for physics material. hit hit material, something like that. I can't remember exactly, but get hit out hit material. So there should be something here about the specific material that we got. I can't remember exactly what it's called though. Get physics. Let's look for things that would have to do with this specifically. So first off, get surface type. There we go. Thank you. This is the physics material. It's called a surface type. Okay, so basically we're going to take a look for this, and if this is equal to number 0 is not going to be right, but if it's equal to number 1, which is grass, then we know that number 1 is grass. Okay, so then we can do something based off of that. So inside of here we're going to add another float. We're going to call it grass, and this represents all of the grass that you have in the game. So if that's true, right, we need two things. We need two things from here. So that's the first one. The second thing is, let's promote this to a variable. So we'll promote that to a variable. We'll actually split that. Then we'll use it. And if this is true and you actually hit something, which should also be a true factor, then off of those things, set grass to be whatever grass currently is plus 1. So we'll just do grass, and then we'll do an increment float, which is basically plus 1. And we'll set grass. So that right there should work kind of nicely. The only thing is that we don't have in this grass material, which our landscape is using, we don't yet have a physical material output. So we're going to make one, add one physical material output, and then select grass. Okay, so this needs to be so this is for your landscape physical material output. We're just going to use that directly. Okay, so this should work fine. It can go to both of those nodes simultaneously, which is nice. Now, if we touch that, we're hitting grass every time. It doesn't yet tell us, but what we need to do is we need to actually, in here, we need to put, so let's go print string, if this happens, hello. Okay. So, hello, not hello, and watch this. If we just have a cube in here, we can hit the cube, and the cube is not going to say hello. But the grass will, because we're actually gathering grass now. So that's what's really cool about this, is that we're gathering an infinitely large amount of grass every time we do that. We're gathering more grass. So now we have the ability to gather. And with the ability to gather comes the ability to have, comes the ability to actually tell other parts of your game that you have. This is where it gets really fun. So in here, I do, let's say, okay, so I want to create a way of knowing what we have as far as our total grass, right? I'm going to put this block in here because I'm getting, my ears are getting tired of that. Okay, so we'll add in a quick text block. And what we're going to do is we're going to rename this text block to grass. And so this will give us the amount of grass that we have. And again, what you can do is you can pull this up here to about that location and make it so that it encompasses that much space of grass. So it'll always be in the same spot. Now we're going to want to copy and paste that, and then actually move that one to here, and then just instead of having it say grass, we're going to create a binding. And so the binding, what's going to happen is, at the beginning of the game, we're going to tell from the event graph. Actually, we'll do it from here. So whenever we open up the menu, which is down here, what we're going to do is, before we add this viewport, we're going to set grass. Now watch this. So now we're going to set the grass, which has to be a variable in here. I'm sorry, I didn't make this a variable yet. Grass, float. Okay. So now you want to be able to set grass for a menu. So we're going to set the grass using our current grass variable from the character. Okay. Beautiful. So now what you do is you just use this here grass to plug in right there, and that's to text. It'll show you how much grass you have whenever you open the thing up. So right now it says we've got 1 grass. It's already working. Now we've got 14 grass. Okay, so then now we have a grass count, which is this text here. And what we can do is we can also have a button, which will be used for purchasing items or crafting items, if you will. Because if you think about it, gathering grass is very much like gathering coins. You can use coins to buy something. You can use grass to make something. It's actually the same thing as far as the computer's aware. You don't know the difference. So what you could do is you could make it so that it takes a second, then it crafts it, then you know it's done, then you have it, whatever. If you want to, that's kind of the way crafting recipes work already, is it takes X amount of time to do something, unless you're looking at Minecraft, where that isn't the case. But in my case, I'm just going to add a button again. And this button here, oops, just move that whole thing. This button here is going to be positioned right about there. We're going to want it to be a little bit see-through. We're going to make it a little yellow like that. And we're going to imagine that this button here was actually based off of an image. So we can actually throw an image onto the button, and that could be our actual image, right? You can make the image greater in size, and to a certain degree it will let you. So that's pretty nice. And then, of course, you kind of want to stop there more than likely. But the idea is that you could make it, well, this is your image. And then that's kind of how you know what you're going to craft. So this image here is like, let's say we have a picture of grass somewhere. Okay. Okay, that's actually just a material, so we're going to want a picture. You know what? Let's just download a picture of a cigarette real quick. Or a cigar. Because that's what we're crafting today using grass. Cigarette crafting game. Great for kids. Let's just grab the first picture. This one here. Okay. So we'll save the image. It does show that it is a JPG, which is something you have to check about, because sometimes it just saves a link and not the real thing. And you'll just open that picture there, which is called an ePuffer or something. Let's just go ahead and use that right here. Okay, so this is how we know that we're actually crafting what we think we're crafting. We're crafting a cigar. Okay, so now when you press that button, we're going to craft a cigar. And so we'll go down on clicked. So this is what you're going to want to do. So you're going to want to branch. So your branch here, the branch will tell you if something is happening or if something is not happening. And so the thing we need to know is if your grass is over a certain amount. So if it's greater than, let's say, 12 grass, then you can roll that amount of grass up, smoke it, you have a cigar. Bam. Okay. So now you can actually create a cigar just like that. So what's going to happen is if you have more than 12 grass, you know, something happens, otherwise nothing happens. And so this is where we actually make that happen. So what we need to do is create a cigar thing in the character, which we can give the character. So the cigar is going to be a number. That's what the cigar actually is. It's a number that stands for how many cigars you have. What we'll do is we'll cast a character, which I believe is Blueprint third-person character. Okay. And we'll just get the player character. Easiest way to do it, right there. And what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to make it so that as your third-person character, you can set the cigar count to be equal to get cigar, and then we'll increment this. Increment float. Okay, so that should be about it. Now you should have an extra cigar. And then what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to set grass for the third person character to be equal to whatever grass currently is here minus 12. So minus, subtract 12. We'll subtract 12 total. Okay. You'll plug that in there, set the grass for this, and then also just set grass for ourselves. Not to mention that you're going to want to set cigar to be +1 more here as well. So set cigar, which isn't a value yet. You have to have both of these values in both places because you could maybe need to use cigars for a crafting recipe later on. So assuming that you needed to do that, you would do cigar. Another way you can do this is +1 directly. That way you don't have to use that increment float thing. But you could do cigar +1, and then we'll set that cigar count right here. So we do 1, 2, there we go. So the way that we're going to do this is we're going to go into this menu script here, and then we were going to want to copy this, paste it. Okay, copy, paste. Copy, paste. It's not getting pasted. Okay, so now we have a second thing which we can use. So this one is based off of this, which we'll just recombine into one. Move it here. Open it up. Probably the easiest way you can do that. This one here, kind of same thing. We're just going to move it into one. Position it here. And what you're going to want to do is for this one, instead of binding it as we have bound that one, we're going to want to bind this using a new binding, which is going to be our cigar binding. So we'll set that up like so, and now we could get 2 readings potentially. We have grass 1, the other one still says grass. My mistake, guys. It's not grass anymore, it's cigars. So okay, cigars, perfect. Spawned inside of the map. Grass, cigars, 0. Now we can gather quite a bit of grass just by clicking. Perfect. Go in here. We now have 30 grass. Now we have 18 grass. Now we have 6 grass and 2 cigars. If we try and make again, it's not going to work, right, until we get more grass. And when we come back, it's going to be 6 and 0 still. So that should be, well, it should at least in theory be the same. Something's gone wrong here. Let me see what it is. So we've set cigar for player based off of the current cigars for the player. And then we don't actually set the cigar whenever the player opens up the variable again. So this is where it can be a little bit confusing. But we're going to want to set cigar for the menu as well. So this is our target, and we're going to want to set this to be whatever our cigars are. So you hook that there. So I can show you guys again. It should be the same readings. It's not yet, but it will be. So we'll just gather a few blades of grass here for creating ourselves a cigar. Okay. Wow, actually that was more than I thought. Okay. We can no longer craft them. If we go back, and we go back in, now we have 4 cigars which we can work with. So the beautiful thing about this is that it kind of builds itself. Once you've got that part in place, you can just build more. Let's say that we wanted another recipe which we could use specifically with cigars. So if you wanted to, you have 4 cigars or something, you can now craft a pack of cigars, which is, you know, dumb, but just to show it off, pack of cigars. Okay. So now we could steal this image and use this. Okay, that one's not an actual photo. Notice that. You have to find one that's an actual photo. They're smart. Save image. This one's a JPG, so we'll save that. Okay, so this could be our new image. We'll just import that as well. Okay, cool deal. So the idea would be, here we create a new button based off of button 1, and actually in nearly the same place as well. So we'll copy, then we'll paste it in. And so what you want to do is you'll want to position these in a way that's like really similar. Excuse me. So here's one here, here's another here. Perfect. So those are going to look really nice because this one is no longer going to have that image. It's going to have this other image which is called this one, whatever. I'm just going to drag it up because that's easier. Okay. So this is your secondary image if I'm not mistaken. You have, okay, nope, I was wrong. You have button and button 1. So we have this button here, which is button 0, and then button, and then button 1. I'm guessing button 1 doesn't even have a click function yet. Okay, apparently it does. So button 1 does, but button 0 doesn't. So it's really interesting that this one's not being named button. Whatever. Okay, we know that this is our button for actually crafting a pack of cigars. So to craft a pack of cigars, what we would do is a very similar thing, and this is how it just builds itself, guys. Right? If you wanted to, you could buy... Actually, you know what? Yeah, well, we'll make it a pack of cigars. Pack cigars. Okay, so the pack of cigars will essentially do everything else that this thing does here, except just a little bit differently. If you want, you could actually steal the code from it almost directly, more than likely. So instead of using the grass check, we're going to use a cigar check. And so what we'll do is we'll check cigars. If the cigars are greater than a number, instead of 12, it's 2, then what we're going to want to do is do something over here. So what we'll do is, instead of setting cigars like this, we'll set pack of cigar. Pack cigar. So we'll grab pack cigar, which is something that we need from over here. I don't believe we have yet, so we'll craft it. It's pack cigars, right? So you have to make sure that you have that variable in both. So we'll set pack cigars to be get pack cigars. And so now we just kind of hook this stuff all together like so. And then we set pack cigars for, instead of the third person, we set it for ourselves, our default value, right? Kind of like that right there. And so, and then you can hook that to get rid of some, instead of grass, we would get rid of some cigars. So we'll do set pack cigars or sorry, set cigars. So we would want to set cigars. Okay, so apparently this just wants to set pack cigars at this point, and it doesn't really like just doing regular cigars, but I don't care. Okay, so we've got the option to set cigar directly. So we'll set our cigar count to be the current cigar count -1. Replug that in there, and then set cigar here to be minus the same thing. So set cigar. Sorry, I grabbed the wrong one. You grab this one. Okay. And it's actually not -1, it's -2. Okay, because you want them to be always updated to the same place. And so I've got this error here where this isn't working because this one hasn't been compiled yet. That's what's happening. Anyways, now we've got grass. If we were to, excuse me, let's grab a lot of this stuff. Okay, that's probably enough. We can now make 2 cigars, which would allow us to press this and hopefully buy something. Not working yet. So one of the things is that this is supposed to check that if your cigar count is greater than 2, that you can actually go ahead and buy a pack of cigars. So that's one of the things that's supposed to happen. Now, for that to happen, I also want, again, this is something I should have done already, but I haven't done yet, is not just a cigar thing, but very similar to this, and I'm just going to just drag it out this time because I think it's probably easier to start from scratch. So we'll do text block, which is packed cigars. And you have to decide what's more important, that the words line up. Excuse me, not the picture, just the word here. Okay. Okay, so now, again, we'll pull this over here. Make sure that that's always going to be in roughly at least the same place. And then we'll pull out another text and we'll bind this one to our packed cigars. Here we go. Okay, compile, save. So we actually should have a way now of testing our total amount of cigars. But it does show up as being 0, which is because... Okay, and it shows up in a weird place because we haven't actually moved this to be here so that it stays in the same place relative to the other thing. Okay. Okay, and hey, what is that? Mind closing the door?
Are you in the middle of a stream?
Yeah. Okay, so, I'm sorry. Excuse this. Just gonna turn on this heater real quick. Okay, so as you can see, that 0 is still way off, and I'm not sure exactly why that is. Whenever it comes to this packed cigars thing should always be in the same place. This text should be in the same place. This text block is bound to be 0. Okay, so now that's showing up kind of right, but this is like way off in a, in a really weird place. I'm gonna want to get rid of the default. I think this is probably get text 1. Yeah, let's just get rid of that. I don't want that in there, and I want to make this one smaller like the others, so that it's at least more likely to come out in a similar place. And this one here just comes off in a really strange place because I don't know why. Okay, so we're going to position that more like so. And the thing is, that should kind of help. Yeah. Whatever. Good enough. Again, we'll rebind that one now. And compile all that. Okay. So now we have... Okay, that packed cigars thing looks really off compared to this other stuff. Which I wonder why, because it's right there next to it, but it comes off looking super off. I'll fix that later, don't worry about it. The main thing is you can actually see that you have these packed cigars. And as an option to buy or to have, right? So again, you're going to want to just get some grass and stuff, right? Then you can actually buy some cigars. And now you can actually buy a packed cigar. So it works. You can only buy it once though, and I've realized something that's interesting, which is that this only works if your cigar count and your grass count are greater than, but it should be if it's greater or equal to. So if it's greater or equal to, in this case 2, then you could make a pack. So then you would make it like 4, for example, or whatever. And so this is a way of storing stuff more efficiently, for example. So say that you could only carry so much of a specific kind of loot, then that could come in later very handy for making, grass into cigars, into packed cigars, so you can actually hold more of the stuff. So the last thing is you could actually make it so that it works backwardsly as well. So I'll show you that in a second. So first off, if it's greater or equal to 12 is what we want. So if it's greater or equal to 12, that was my mistake from the beginning there. Okay, so now you have these two beautiful pieces of code which control part of your menu. We're going to want to add one more piece which works quite literally the opposite way of this. So if it's greater or equal to 1, right? So if you have a greater amount of packed cigars, right, than 1, we won't use that because we need a custom button again. Actually, you know what? This is a piece of code that we would use in combination with the first button, which is a button for creating cigars directly. Okay, so this button here is supposed to be used for creating cigars. So this would be all of our creating cigars stuff. So if this cigar is not being created out of grass, which is what this would tell us, then we would create it using this method here, essentially. So it would take both to know. But this gives us the ability to use multiple different things to test our making cigars. So we would get out pack cigars, and if pack cigars is greater or equal to 1, then what you would want to do is you would want to set the cigars. So you would essentially copy this piece of code because that's perfect. Delete this piece of code because it's not. Inject this. Plug that in here. Plug that in here. And then hook that part up there. So we'll set, not cigar, sorry, but pack cigars. Set pack cigars to be packed cigars minus 1. And then we would set pack cigars based off of the third person character. So set pack cigars. Excuse me guys, I gotta get this real quick. Okay, sorry about that, guys. I'm back now. So the thing is, essentially what we do is we set the pack cigars minus 1, and then we set the pack cigars minus 1 here as well, because that should continue to be accurate. And so what we're going to do is we're going to set cigar to be plus 1, just like that. Actually, instead of setting it to be plus 1, we need to set this to be plus whatever amount we're adding here. So this amount and this amount, if they add up, then that makes sense. Okay. So what happens is it gives us two different options. First of all, use weed. Second of all, use actual packs of cigars. So if a 4-pack of cigars comes along, then it should give you, 4 new cigars instead, like that. So now this should work out nicely. I need to gather quite a bit of grass for this example. This is going to be one of the crazy examples. And this is going to be also my last example for today for this crafting. Okay. But now you go around. You've picked up quite a bit of grass. I hope that's enough. 105 should be. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, something like that. So now we create a pack of cigars. It checks the grass first so it can make more grass, but then afterwards you can see that this is a trade that works. Check that out. So you can actually just have more or less cigars, something like that. And so it kind of actually isn't working properly yet. I'm not sure what that was. It acted strange. I want to kind of see what the pattern there was because I wasn't expecting that, to be honest. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. We could gather 4 cigars exactly. Now that trades, it actually adds a cigar. And then you have 6, and then 1, and 5. And it acts weird until it stops acting weird. But what's happening is something's not going right there. So if this happens here, what should happen is it should add 4 cigars because you've done this. And then it should take 4 cigars to put that back in here. But instead, according to this, it's only taking 2. So that's my fault. Excuse me. And now, that should mean it's equal trade. And I'm getting a call again. Give me a second. Okay, I'm sorry about that as well. Let's see. We were collecting grass. Now we had the opportunity to create some cigars. We don't have enough. We're going to gather... Oh, dang it. Let's see. We needed exactly 48, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26. You know what? Just let's rough it. Okay, so that's 36. That's 48. So that was actually the perfect amount. So what I need to do is create 4 cigars. 4 cigars creates 1 packed cigar, creates 4 cigars, creates packed cigars, which is minus 3. I don't understand the logic there at the very end. I'm very confused. It's very, very strange logic. And that's the logic of a computer, I'm not going to lie. I need to make up for those -2 because I want to see what happened there again. Okay. 2, 3, 4. Okay, so that gives us 4 cigars, which gives us 1, which gives us 4. When we do that trade again, it goes from 4 to -3. And I'm confused. I'm officially confused. Now you see, the thing is, what we should be doing is setting the packed cigars -1, setting these -4. Okay, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to make it so that at the very beginning of the project, your cigar count is equal to 4. That way we don't have to worry about it anymore. So this gets us to exactly where we want to be. We have 4 cigars. We can craft a packed cigar. Craft cigars. Crafting them again creates the issue. So this is really, really strange. I'm not sure exactly what to make of that. So debug time. 1 cigar. 4 cigar. 4 minus 4. 4 minus 4 is -3. I don't, the first time it works, right? Cigar is 4. So +4. The first time it costed 4 as well. I think that the problem must be that we're actually updating the pack of cigars in only one place, or missing one place whenever we try and upgrade it. So it's like here we're setting the cigars, right? And then we're not setting the cigars correctly the next place. Does that make sense? So here's where we've messed up. Okay, I can tell you right now that this is where we've already messed up. So it should be cigar +4. So we would set it here to be cigar +4. Right? We're not basing this off of the other thing. And if we did that also, good job if you saw that. I think that's where we've screwed up. Okay. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Yep. Okay, so we fixed the glitch. So it's working properly now. You can actually use 4 cigars to craft a pack of cigars. And then when you have 4 packed cigars, or whatever amount of packed cigars, you could also create a little shop where you could sell them for coins or something like that. So that's something that I think I'll go into next time, is actually creating a shop. But that's pretty much it. And gee, this was a long stream. I'm going to probably have to cut this down to the smaller sections, the parts that actually matter the most. But yeah, that's it. So, peace.